The planet hung in the blackness of space like a green and blue marble. It was World XT-77. To the crew of the Galactic conquered ship Starlight Weaver, it was a puzzle and a danger. The ship was long and smooth, built by people who loved quiet and light. Inside, the air was clean and still. Commander Kyle stood on the bridge. He was tall and thin, with scales that shimmered under the soft lights. His eyes, large and dark, were fixed on the main screen. The screen showed the planet below. It also showed lines of data, most of it red and yellow, warning of danger. "Another one, Commander," a voice said. It was his science officer, Elia. She was from a bird-like people called the Liss. She was small, with delicate feathers on her arms. She looked nervous. The sound from the northern continent. "It is very loud," Kyle nodded. "Let us hear it." Elia tapped a panel. The bridge speakers came to life. First, there was a low rumble that grew into a thunderous roar. It was the sound of something huge and angry. It was followed by a sharp, high-pitched shriek that made two of the bridge crew flinch. Then there was a series of quicker punching sounds. Boom, 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 before it ended with a final grinding crash. Silence returned to the bridge. It was a heavy silence. "Analysis?" Kale asked. His voice was calm, but his tail gave a slight, worried twitch. "The audio profile matches the predatory biosigns we detected in that region," Elia said, her fingers flying over her console. "The initial roar has enough power to shake the ground from 5 kilometers away. The shrieks suggest tearing of metal or perhaps very thick bone. The concussive booms are likely the creature restamping or beating its chest." A picture was forming in the minds of the alien crew. A picture of a monster, a giant beast roaring its dominance, shrieking as it tore its prey apart, and stomping the ground so hard it sounded like explosions. "This is the 7th such event this rotation," Kale said, "and the bioscans show hundreds of these large, aggressive life forms all over the planet." He looked around at his crew. Their faces were grim. "The conclusion is clear. XT-77 is a death world. Its dominant species is a creature of immense power and aggression. We will mark it as unreclaimable. No colony can be placed here. It is too dangerous," everyone agreed. It was the only logical answer. The roars were the roars of beasts. The planet belonged to them. But down on the surface, in a hidden valley the Starlight Weaver had not yet scanned closely, the truth was very different. The thunderous roar was not a beast. It was the sound of a launcher. A man named Jin fired it from his shoulder. The projectile flew across the valley and hit the side of a rocky cliff. The explosion was not a shriek of tearing metal but the sound of rock shattering. He was not hunting. He was clearing a new nest of rock crawlers, small, nasty creatures that liked to chew on power cables. The shriek was the sound of the shrapnel and stone fragments flying through the air. Jin lowered the launcher. His face was dirty and sweat made lines through the grime. He wore tough, patched-up clothes. He keyed the small radio on his shoulder. "The nest at the West Ridge is clear," he said, his voice rough but calm. A woman's voice came back, clear and steady in his earpiece. "I see." Moving to the next point. High on a ledge overlooking the valley, a woman named Mina lay on her stomach. She was looking through the scope of a long rifle. Her job was to watch for any other dangers, like the large, 6-legged grazers that could trample their crops. She saw Jin below, a small, determined figure in the vast green landscape. She scanned the tree line. Everything was quiet for now. This was their home. They called it Sanctuary. Jin started walking back towards the main settlement. It was not a city. It was a collection of sturdy buildings made from a mix of ship parts and local wood. There were greenhouses and a small water purification plant. People were working. Some were tending plants. Others were repairing a fence. They all looked tired, but they looked determined. A man named Chul was waiting for him by the main gate. Chul was older, his hair streaked with gray. He was the head of the community. He was once an engineer on the colony ship that brought them here, the Odyssey. "The noise will bring the scrap birds," Chul said, looking up at the sky. "I know," Jin said, but the crawlers were getting too close to the generator. It was a choice between noise and no power. Chul nodded. He understood hard choices. They had been making them every day since the Odyssey crashed on this world. That was 20 years ago. The survivors, including many who were just children then, had built this life from nothing. They fought the planet every single day. The roars and booms the aliens heard from space were just the sounds of that fight. Later that evening, Jin sat with Mina and Chul inside one of the buildings. It was their meeting hall, also their mess hall. The walls were covered in maps and lists of supplies. The big grazers are moving south, Mina said. They will be near the northern fields in a few days. We will need to use the thumpers. The thumpers were another human tool. They were metal poles driven into the ground that created a low, powerful vibration. To the aliens in orbit, it would sound like a deep, rhythmic, earth-shaking stomp. Another beast marking its territory. Do it, Chul said. We need those crops. Do you think anyone is still looking for us? Jin asked, cleaning his rifle. It was a question they asked sometimes, but less and less as the years went by. Chul sighed. The Odyssey was off course when we went down. Our beacon died in the crash. This sector is supposed to be empty. He pointed a finger towards the roof, towards the sky. If anyone is up there, they are probably just passing by. And with all the noise we have to make just to stay alive. He didn't finish the sentence, he didn't need to. They all knew. To anyone listening, their survival sounded like the screams of a wild and deadly world. Their tools sounded like the roars of monsters. Up in orbit, Commander Kale was writing his report. He typed the official designation, World XT-77 Class 12 Death World, inhabited by massive, unclassified predator species. Audio evidence suggests extreme aggression and territorial nature. Recommend full quarantine. No further contact. He listened to one of the audio files one more time. A deep, guttural roar filled his quiet office. He shook his head. It was the sound of a nightmare. He was sure of it. He had no idea he was listening to the sound of a man named Jin fighting for his life. He had no idea that the beasts he feared were just people like him, people who had to make a lot of noise to keep the real monsters away. The silence on the Starlight Weaver was a living thing. It was the hum of the engines and the soft tap of fingers on control panels. It was the quiet talk of the crew. This silence was their normal. It was safe. Down below, the world of XT-77 was the opposite of silence. It was a storm of noise. Commander Kyle found himself listening to the recordings from the planet, even when he did not need to. He sat in his office and played the roars. He tried to understand the beast that made them. It is a puzzle, he said to his science officer, Elia. She had come to give him a new report. It is a dangerous puzzle. Commander, she replied, her feathers ruffling slightly. The pattern is the same all over the planet. These roars, they happen in areas with high levels of life signs. The creatures are claiming their territory. They are fighting each other. It is a world of constant war. Kale looked at the sound wave on his screen. The line jumped and peaked with terrible force. Such power. What kind of animal needs to make a sound like this?
What is it telling the world?
I think it is saying, stay away, Elia said softly. Or perhaps I am here and I am strong. It is a shame, Kale said. The planet is beautiful. The air is good. The water is clean. But it is not for us. It belongs to them. He meant the beasts, the owners of the roars. Down on the surface, the owners of the roars were having a meeting. The community of Sanctuary was gathered in the main hall. Chul stood at the front. Jin and Mina sat in the front row. The faces looking back at Chul were tired but strong. These were the children of the Odyssey. They had known this world their whole lives. The food supply is good, Chul said. The last harvest was strong. But the grazers are a problem. They are coming closer to the eastern fields. A man in the crowd spoke up. The thumpers are ready. We can place them tonight. The noise should keep the big animals away. The thumpers were another human tool. They were simple machines. They were metal poles that were pushed deep into the ground. A small motor inside made them shake. This sent a powerful vibration through the earth. To the aliens above, it sounded like a giant beast stomping its foot. A slow, heavy boom, boom, boom. It was a sound of warning. Good, Chul said. Do it after dark. And we need to check the fence along the river. Jin, can you take a team tomorrow? The meeting continued. They talked about water filters. They talked about repairing the roofs before the rainy season. They talked about the children's lessons. It was a normal meeting for a small town. But this was not a normal town. This was a town hiding on a planet that wanted to kill them. Every decision was about survival. Later, Jin and Mina walked together along the path to the watchtower. The tower was built from the metal skeleton of the Odyssey. It was the highest point in the valley. From the top you could see for miles. The two of them often took the last watch of the night. Do you ever think about what it would be like? Mina asked. Her voice was quiet. To live on a quiet world? A safe world. Jin looked out at the dark jungle. He could hear the sounds of the native animals, the chirps and clicks and distant calls. Sometimes, he said. But this is our home. We built it. We protect it, I know, Mina said. But protecting it sounds like we are the monsters. She pointed a thumb towards the sky. If anyone is listening, what do they hear? They hear our guns. They hear our thumpers. They hear our explosions. They don't hear us talking. They don't hear the children laughing. They just hear the roars. Jin put a hand on her shoulder. Let them think we are monsters then. If it keeps the real monsters away. If it keeps us safe. The next morning, Jin, Sue, and Min left to check the fence. Sue was a few years younger than Jin. He was strong and always smiling. Min was quiet and serious. She carried a toolkit and a rifle. They moved quickly and quietly through the trees. They knew this forest well. The fence was not a normal fence. It was a high wall of sharpened logs and metal sheets. It was meant to stop very large animals. They walked along its length looking for damage. They found a place where something had tried to push through. The logs were cracked. Looks like a bristleback, Min said, looking at the thick, sharp hairs caught in the wood. A big one. We can fix this, Sue said. He took a hammer and some nails from his pack. As they worked, Jin kept watch. He looked into the dark jungle. He felt a strange feeling. A feeling of being watched. But it was not the feeling he got from an animal. It was different. He saw nothing. High above, the Starlight Weaver was doing a deep scan of the northern continent. Elia was looking for the source of the heavy stomping sounds. The biosigns are confusing, Commander, she said. The large animals move away from the sound. They are scared of it. But the sound itself, it does not come from a single animal. It comes from the ground. An earthquake? Kyle asked. No, Elia said. It is too regular. Too perfect. It is a pattern. Boom, wait, boom, wait, boom. It is like a heartbeat. A heartbeat of the planet? Kale was fascinated. Or a call? I do not know, Elia admitted. But it is another reason to be careful. This world is even stranger than we thought. That afternoon, back in Sanctuary, a little girl named Hannah was playing near the greenhouse. She was 6 years old. She had a small doll made from woven grass. She was singing a song to herself. It was a song her mother had taught her. A song from Earth. Suddenly, a small, furry animal with too many legs jumped out of the grass. It was harmless, but it startled Hannah. She screamed. It was a loud, high-pitched human scream. In orbit, Elia was monitoring the audio sensors. A new sound came through. It was a short, sharp shriek. It was different from the other shrieks. This one was higher. It sounded like fear. Commander, she said. I have something. A new vocalization. It is smaller, but it is full of panic. Kyle came to her station. Play it. The sound of Hannah's scream filled the bridge. The crew shifted uncomfortably. It is a young one, Elia said, her voice sad. A pup of one of the large predators. It is scared. Perhaps it is lost. Or, Kale said, his face grim, it is being hunted. Listen. After the scream, the sensors picked up the sound of quick running footsteps, then a lower, calming voice. It was Hannah's mother running to her. She picked up Hannah and held her. Shh, it's okay. It's just a little jump mouse. It's more scared than you are. But to the aliens, the sounds told a different story. They heard a terrified cry. Then they heard the quick, heavy footsteps of a larger creature approaching. Then a low, rumbling growl. The parent has found it, Kale concluded. The pup is safe. But it shows their social structure. They protect their young. They are intelligent beasts. He was right about one thing. They were intelligent and they protected their young. But he was wrong about everything else. That night, the thumpers were turned on. The deep rhythmic boom, boom, boom started up. It echoed through the valley and into space. On the Starlight Weaver, the crew tracked the sound. The heartbeat has started again, Elia reported. Commander Kyle watched the screen. He saw the large animal life signs moving away from the sound. He nodded. It is a territorial marker. A very powerful one. This valley must belong to the pack leader, the king of the beasts. Down in the valley, the king of the beasts was Chul. He was in his small house reading an old paper book to Hannah before she went to sleep. The deep thumping of the machines was the background noise of their safety. It was the sound that kept the giant grazers from eating their food. It was the sound of their home. But to the universe above, it was just another roar in the dark. The air on the bridge of the Starlight Weaver was tense with a new kind of energy. It was not the quiet fear of the unknown roars from the planet below. This was a sharp, focused excitement. A small, sleek shuttle was being prepared for launch. Its mission was simple and scientific. Its name was the Starfall. Commander Kale watched the preparations on his screen. The leader of the away team was a young xenobiologist named Ranil. Ranil was eager and brilliant. He had shiny blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. He believed he understood the dangers of XT-77. "Your mission is to land at Grid 7, Kale said to Ranil over the comms. "The geological scans show a high concentration of tyranium crystals in the rock faces there. We need a sample. It is a vital mineral for our hyperdrives." "Understood, Commander." Ranil's voice was confident. "We have studied the predator patterns. The large biosigns are quiet in that valley at this time of day. We will be in and out before they know we are there." "Your safety is the priority, Ranil," Kale warned. "The roars from that region are aggressive. Do not take risks. If you hear anything at all, you return to the shuttle immediately." "We will be careful," Ranil promised. The shuttle carried Ranil and 4 others. 2 were security officers, big and strong, armed with energy rifles. The other 2 were science staff like Ranil. The shuttle left the Starlight Weaver and slipped silently into the planet's atmosphere. It was a quiet, smooth machine. It did not roar. It whispered. Down in Sanctuary, the day was normal. Jin was teaching a group of older kids how to track animals. He showed them the difference between the claw marks of a rock crawler and the hoof prints of a grazer. Mina was on watch duty in the tower. Shul was in the workshop trying to fix a broken water pump. Mina saw it first. A flicker in the sky. A small shiny object moving fast and purposefully. It was not a bird. It was not a piece of wreckage from the Odyssey. Her heart beat faster. She lifted her binoculars. "Chul." "Jin, come in," she said into her radio, her voice low and urgent. "What is it, Mina?" Chul's voice crackled back. "There's a ship, a small one. It's not one of ours." She watched as the shuttle changed direction. "It's heading for the dead zone." The dead zone was what the humans called the rocky valleys to the north. It was a place they avoided. It was full of sharp cliffs and deep caves, and it was the main nesting ground for the skitter swarms. Jin's voice came over the radio. "The Conquered. Finally?" "It has to be," Chul said. "But the dead zone? Of all the places to land." There was deep worry in his voice. "Should we try to contact them?" Mina asked. "No," Chul said quickly. "Our long-range radio is dead. We'd have to get closer. And if they are Concord, they are probably scanning for those big animal signs. They might not even notice a small signal from us. They think this planet is empty of people. They listened. They waited. They hoped the shuttle would leave quickly." Inside the Starfall, Ranil felt a thrill as they landed. The ground was red and rocky. Giant cliffs rose around them. It was quiet. Too quiet. "The air is safe," one of the science staff said. "No toxic elements." "Good," Ranil said. "Let's be quick. The mineral scan shows the tyranium is in that cliff face 500 meters from here." He pointed. The 2 security officers led the way, their energy rifles held ready. Their eyes scanned the rocks for movement. For 10 minutes, everything was perfect. They reached the cliff. One of the science staff used a laser tool to cut a small piece of the glowing blue crystal. It fell into her gloved hand. She held it up to the light. "A perfect sample," she said, smiling at Ranil. It was then that they heard the first sound, a soft, dry sound, like pebbles trickling down a rock. They all turned. One of the security officers shone his light into a dark hole at the base of the cliff. The hole was not empty. It was filled with a shifting, clicking mass. Thousands of black, shiny bodies. Each one was the size of a man's hand. They had too many legs and sharp, clicking mandibles. Their eyes were like tiny black beads. It was a skitter swarm, and the light and the noise had woken them up. The sound changed. The soft clicking became a loud, angry chittering. It was the sound of 1,000 tiny knives being sharpened at once. "Back to the shuttle." "Now," the lead security officer yelled. They ran, but it was too late. The swarm poured out of the cave like a black river. They moved incredibly fast, flowing over the rocks. The security officers fired their energy rifles. Bright pulses of light hit the swarm. A few of the creatures at the front exploded into pieces. But for everyone that died, 100 more took its place. The energy weapons were too slow. There were too many. On the Starlight Weaver, the bridge crew watched in horror. "Commander, the Starfall is under attack," Elia cried. The video feed from Arneil's helmet camera was shaky. It showed a nightmare. The ground was a moving carpet of black insects. The audio feed was filled with the horrible chittering and the desperate shouts of the team. "We can't stop them," a security officer screamed. Then his biosign flashed red and went dark. The chittering grew louder. "They're on the hull. They're trying to get in," another voice yelled. It was one of the science staff inside the shuttle. Kale slammed his hand on the console. "Get them out of there." "Can we beam them up?" "No, Commander. The interference from the planet is too strong, and the swarm is creating an energy field with their bodies. It is impossible." They were trapped. They could only watch and listen. Ranil and one security officer were cut off from the shuttle. They backed against a large rock. The swarm was all around them. The security officer fired again and again, but the swarm kept coming. Arneil knew it was over. This was how he would die, eaten by insects on a death world. He closed his eyes, waiting for the pain. In Sanctuary, the humans heard nothing. But Mina, from her high perch, saw a flicker of light in the dead zone. The flash of an energy weapon. "They're in trouble," she said into her radio. "I saw weapon fire. A lot of it." Jin and Chul were already running towards the watchtower. "What kind of trouble?" Chul asked as he reached the top, breathing heavily. "I don't know, but the firing stopped too quickly." Mina's face was pale. "If it's the swarm, they don't have a chance." On the Starlight Weaver, the audio feed from the planet was growing quieter. The chittering was the only sound. One of the security officers was still alive inside the shuttle, his breathing fast and panicked. "They're breaking through the door." "The metal is bending." Commander Kale felt a terrible weight in his chest. He had sent them to their deaths. He had underestimated the beasts of this world. The roars were one thing, but this silent, swarming death was another. He thought he heard a new sound over the audio, a different kind of roar, but it was faint and he was sure it was just his imagination. He was wrong. Down in the valley, Jin looked from Mina to Chul. "We have to go. We have to help them." "It's a full day's walk," Chul said. "They'll be dead long before we get there." "Then we don't walk," Jin said. A wild, desperate idea was forming in his mind. Chul stared at him. He knew what Jin was thinking. "The shuttle? It's not ready. The engine is held together with wire and hope. It might not even fly." "It's their only chance," Mina said, her voice firm. "It's a one-way trip." "But it's a chance." Chul looked at their faces. He saw the same determination he felt in his own heart. They had been alone for so long. The idea of other people, even aliens, dying when they could help. It was unthinkable. "Okay," Chul said, his decision made. "We go. Jin, you and Mina get the shuttle ready. I'll get the heavy weapons from the armory. We leave in 10 minutes, they ran. The king of the beast was going to war, not with a roar, but with the sputtering ignition of a broken engine. They were going to show the galaxy what the roars truly meant. The hangar was a cave hidden behind a waterfall at the eastern edge of the valley. It was a secret place, cool and damp. Inside, surrounded by tools and spare parts, sat the last flying machine of the human colony. It was not sleek or beautiful. It was a boxy, ugly thing, patched in 100 places with mismatched metal. Its paint was faded and scratched. This was the shuttle from the Odyssey, and it had not flown in over a year. Jin hit the power sequence. The console lights flickered, some staying on, others blinking weakly. A low grinding sound came from the engines. It was the sound of a machine that was very tired. "Come on, old friend," Jin whispered, tapping a gauge. "Just one more time." Mina was already loading supplies. She threw a heavy medical kit into the back. Then she started passing ammunition boxes to Jin. They were not for energy weapons. They were boxes of solid metal bullets, big ones. Chul came running into the hangar, his arms full. He carried a long, heavy weapon that had multiple barrels. It was a machine gun, the kind that could fire thousands of rounds a minute. He also carried 2 rifles and a shotgun. "The engine is protesting," Jin said, not looking up from his work. "The left thruster is unstable." "It just has to get us there," Chul said, his voice grim. He loaded the machine gun with a belt of ammunition. The heavy bullets clinked together. "It doesn't have to get us back." The truth of those words hung in the air. The shuttle was a one-way ticket. They were going to save the aliens, but they would be stranded in the dead zone themselves. It was a very long and dangerous walk back to Sanctuary. On the Starlight Weaver, the mood was one of mourning. Commander Kyle stood silently on the bridge. The audio feed from the planet was quiet now except for a soft scraping sound. The skitter swarm was cleaning its nest. The bio-signs of the away team had all gone dark. They were gone. "It is over," Ilya said softly. Her feathers were flat against her body in a sign of grief. "We have lost them." Kale nodded slowly. He felt a heavy responsibility. He had sent them to their deaths. He had listened to the roars and thought he understood the danger. But he had been wrong. The real danger was not the loud beast, but the silent, countless one. "Prepare to record a final log," Kyle said, his voice hollow. "We will mark this world with a warning beacon and leave. There is nothing more for us here." Down on the surface, the ugly human shuttle lifted into the air. It did not rise smoothly. It shuddered and coughed black smoke. The engine screamed in a high-pitched whine that was very different from the roars the aliens knew. It was the sound of something breaking but refusing to die. Jin fought with the controls. "She doesn't want to fly straight." "Just point it north," Joel yelled from the back, holding onto the machine gun to keep it from sliding. "We don't need style. We just need speed." The shuttle lurched forward, climbing unsteadily over the treetops. It was incredibly loud. The noise scared the birds for miles around. In the watchtower of Sanctuary, the people looked up at the sound. They watched their friends fly away on a suicide mission. A woman put her arm around a little girl. It was Hannah. She held her grass doll tightly. "Will they come back?" Hannah asked. The woman did not answer. She just watched the smoking shuttle until it disappeared into the clouds. Inside the shuttle, the noise was deafening. Mina looked out the window. She saw the green jungle of their home give way to the harsh red rock of the dead zone. It was a lifeless place, a place of death there, she shouted, pointing. Below, they could see the Concorde shuttle. It was shiny and clean, even from a distance. And it was covered. A moving black blanket of skitter swarms covered it completely. The creatures were chewing on the metal, trying to get inside. "Are we too late?" Jin asked, his heart sinking. Then they saw a flicker of movement near a large rock. Two figures. One was firing an energy rifle. The other was huddled behind him. "They were still alive. Get us over them," Chul yelled. He swung the heavy machine gun towards the open side door. The wind roared into the shuttle. Ranil held onto the rock. He had accepted his death. The security officer next to him, named Tarn, was firing his energy rifle. But the swarm was only feet away. The chittering was the only sound in the universe. Then a new sound came. A terrible, grinding, roaring sound from above. It was not the whisper of their own shuttle. This was a harsh, angry noise. Ranil looked up. He saw a shape block out the sun. It was a boxy, dirty, ugly craft. It looked like it was made from scrap. Smoke poured from one engine. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The alien ship stopped right above them. It hovered unsteadily. Then Ranil saw a human face in the open doorway. It was a man with determined eyes, and he was behind a weapon he had never seen before. A weapon with multiple barrels. The universe exploded into sound. It was not the deep roar of an animal. It was a sharp, violent tearing sound. A sound that ripped the air apart. Brrr! Fire spat from the barrels of the machine gun. A storm of metal fell from the sky. The bullets tore into the skitter swarm. They did not just kill one creature at a time. Each bullet tore through a dozen of the insects, turning them into black paste. The neat black carpet of the swarm was ripped to shreds. Chol held the trigger, his body shaking from the force of the gun. He moved it back and forth, painting the ground with fire and lead. The chittering turned into a screech of confusion and pain. Ranil and Tarn could only stare, stunned. They were saved. But by what? The ship looked like a monster. The weapon sounded like a monster. Was this another predator, here to claim the prey for itself? Then the gunfire stopped. The sudden silence was almost as shocking as the noise. The swarm, what was left of it, hesitated. Inside the human shuttle, Jin yelled, "Chul!" "The gun!" Chul looked down. The ammunition belt was empty. The mighty roar had ended. The swarm, sensing a moment of weakness, began to move forward again. Their chittering started up, softer now, but still deadly. Ranil's hope died. Their savior was silent. The monster had spent its roar. He closed his eyes, waiting for the end. Then a clear voice cut through the wind and the chittering. It was a female voice from inside the ugly ship. It was not a scream. It was not a roar. It was a single sharp, intelligent word. Jin. Reload! The word hung in the air, sharp and clear. Reload. On the bridge of the Starlight Weaver, the audio sensor picked it up. The alien translator, a device used to understand thousands of complex languages, processed the simple, guttural word instantly. Reload. Commander Kale froze. His eyes, wide and unblinking, were fixed on the audio readout. That was not a roar. That was not a beast cry of rage or pain. It was a command. A tactical, intelligent command. Ilya turned to him, her own face a mask of shock. Commander, that was language. Down on the planet, the word had an immediate physical effect. The man in the doorway of the ugly ship, Jin, did not hesitate. He did not growl or snarl. His movements were fast, practiced, efficient. He reached down, released a heavy smoking metal box from the big gun and let it fall to the floor of the shuttle. It landed with a loud clang. From inside the shuttle, another man, Chul, shoved a new heavy box into Jin's hands. Jin slammed it into the gun. There was a solid metallic clunk as it locked into place. His hand pulled back a lever on the side of the weapon. The sound was a promise of more violence to come. The entire action took less than 3 seconds. Ranil, the xenobiologist on the ground, watched this happen. His brilliant mind, which had just moments ago accepted death, was now struggling to understand. The beast had not roared. It had spoken, and its young had obeyed with the precision of a military drill. Then the beast roared again. The gunfire started once more. The storm of metal descended on the skitter swarm. This time it was a slaughter. The swarm, already broken and confused, was torn to pieces. The few remaining creatures turned and fled, scrambling back into the dark safety of their caves. In seconds, the ground around the rock was clear. Only the messy remains of the swarm were left. The gunfire stopped. The sudden silence was heavy and complete. The human shuttle, still smoking, settled onto the rocky ground with a jarring thud. Its engines whined down into a sputtering cough. Jin kept the machine gun pointed at the cave entrance, his eyes scanning for any movement. Mina jumped out from the side door, her rifle ready. She moved quickly to Ranil and Tarn. "Are you injured? Can you walk?" she asked. Her voice was calm and professional. It was the voice of a soldier or a doctor, not a monster. Tarn, the security officer, still had his energy rifle raised. He was pointing it shakily at Mina. He saw a dirty armed creature approaching him. His instincts were screaming predator. Ranil put a hand on Tarn's arm. "No," he said, his voice a whisper. "Look at them." He made Tarn look. He made him see past the dirt and the powerful weapons. He saw the way the humans stood. They were protecting them. The woman was checking them for injuries. The man in the shuttle was covering their retreat. The one named Chul was now standing in the doorway holding a shotgun, watching the cliffs. These were not animals. They were people. We are okay," Ranil said to Mina, finding his voice. "Thank you," Mina gave a short nod. "We need to get you onto our shuttle. This area is not safe. More swarms can come." She helped Ranil to his feet. Tarn, after a moment's hesitation, lowered his weapon and stood up. They were both trembling. On the Starlight Weaver, the bridge was in an uproar. But Commander Kyle was silent. He was watching the video feed from Ranil's helmet camera, which was still transmitting. He saw the human woman help his scientist. He saw the careful, coordinated movements of the 3 humans. They were securing the area. They were rescuing his crew. All the data, all the sounds, everything rearranged itself in his mind. The roars were not roars. They were the sounds of these weapons. The shrieks were not shrieks. They were the sounds of their projectiles. The territorial stomps were not stomps. They were machines. The planet was not a death world full of monsters. It was a colony world defended by humans. He felt a wave of shame and then awe. "They had been so wrong, Ilya," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Scan that valley again. The one they came from. Look for signs of civilization. Look for structures. Look for anything that is not a natural formation." Ilya, her feathers puffed up with excitement, worked her console. A new image of the valley appeared on the main screen. Before, their computers had filtered out the small regular shapes as geological formations or plant life. Now they told the computer to look for straight lines and right angles. The screen changed. Dozens of small square shapes appeared in the valley. The outline of a fence, the clear heat signature of generators, the pattern of cultivated fields. "It is a settlement, Commander," Ilya said, her voice filled with wonder. "A fully functioning settlement." "They have been there all along." Kale stared at the screen. He saw it now. A hidden town. A community. He had listened to the sounds of their struggle to survive and had called them beasts. He had been deaf to their humanity. Down on the planet, the humans had gotten Ranil and Tarn into their shuttle. It was cramped and smelled of oil and smoke. Jen was at the controls trying to get the engine to start again. Come on," he muttered. The engine whined, but it would not turn over. It was dead. They were stuck. Chul looked at Arnil. "Your ship. The big one in the sky. Can it pick you up from here?" Ranil nodded, still feeling dazed. Yes, they can beam us up if we are outside and the interference is low. The swarm is gone, so it should be possible now. Then you should go, Chul said. Tell them we are here." Ranil looked at the 3 tired, dirty faces. He saw the years of hardship in their eyes. He saw the strength it took to live here. He saw the courage it took to fly a broken ship into certain danger to save strangers. "We will tell them," Ranil promised. "We will tell them everything." He activated his comms unit. "Starlight Weaver, this is Ranil. We are alive. We have been rescued. By the natives. We request immediate transport for 2. A moment of static, then Commander Kale's voice came through, filled with emotion. "Acknowledged, Ranil. Transporting now." A shimmering light surrounded Ranil and Tarn. Their bodies began to break apart into 1,000 points of light. Just before he completely vanished, Ranil looked at Jin, Mina, and Chul. "Thank you," he said again, and then they were gone. The human shuttle was silent. The 3 of them were alone again in the dead zone. Their shuttle was broken. They had a long, dangerous walk home. Jin leaned back in his chair and let out a long, tired breath. "Well," he said, "now they know." The air on the bridge of the Starlight Weaver was no longer quiet. It was electric. It hummed with a new kind of energy. The energy of a fundamental truth being uncovered. Commander Kell watched as the 2 transport beams deposited Ranil and Tarn onto the pad. They were dirty and their clothes were torn, but they were alive. Ranil stumbled forward, his eyes wide. "Commander," he said, his voice shaking. "They are not beasts. They are people." "We know, Ranil," Kale said, his voice softer than usual. "We heard. We saw." He gestured to the main screen, which now showed a detailed map of the human valley. "We have been blind." The bridge crew gathered around Arnil and Tarn, listening as they told their story. They spoke of the ugly, brave ship. They spoke of the weapon that roared with fire and metal. They spoke of the clear, intelligent word, reload, that had changed everything. They described the humans' calm efficiency, their concern for the aliens' safety. They knew they would be stranded, Tarn added, his voice full of a new respect. Their ship was broken. They sacrificed themselves for us. Kale turned back to the screen. He looked at the settlement in the valley. He thought of the sounds. Every roar, every boom, every shriek now had a new meaning. They were not the sounds of a wild world. They were the sounds of a battle, a constant battle for survival, a battle these humans were winning. "They have been alone here for a long time," Ilya said softly, "fighting that world with those terrible, wonderful weapons." Kale made a decision. It was the easiest decision he had ever made. "Open a planet-wide communication channel. All frequencies. I want to speak to them." Down in the dead zone, the 3 humans were preparing for their long walk. They gathered their weapons and what little supplies they had. The journey back to Sanctuary would take days, and they would have to avoid many dangers. "They are probably already gone," Jin said, looking up at the sky. "Back to their quiet galaxy." "Maybe that's for the best," Chul replied, hefting his pack. "We managed on our own before." It was then that a voice came from Jin's small handheld radio. It was a voice they had never heard before. It was translated by a machine, but it was clear and respectful. "To the inhabitants of the world, XT-77. This is Commander Kale of the Galactic conquered vessel Starlight Weaver. Please respond." The 3 humans froze. They looked at each other. The radio had been silent for 20 years. Now, an alien voice was coming from it. Chul took the radio from Jin. He pressed the transmit button. "This is Chul. We hear you, Starlight Weaver." "Chul," the voice came back. "On behalf of the Galactic Concord, I offer you our deepest thanks. You saved the lives of our people. We also offer you our deepest apology." "Apology?" Chul asked. "We have been in orbit for many cycles," Kale said. "We listened to the sounds of your world. We heard your struggles. And we misunderstood. We thought the sounds were the roars of beasts. We did not know we were listening to the sound of humanity defending its home." The words hung in the quiet air of the canyon. Jin let out a short, sharp laugh. Mina smiled, a real, relieved smile. "It is a loud home," Chul said into the radio, a hint of humor in his voice. "It is a strong home," Kale replied. "We can see that now. Your settlement is impressive. Your courage is humbling." There was a pause. Then Kale spoke again, his voice firm. "You are not alone anymore. Your shuttle is disabled. We will send a new one for you. It is the least we can do. And after that, if you wish, we can talk. About repairs for your colony, about medicine, about news from Earth, about anything you need." The three humans were silent. They looked at each other. For so long, their world had been defined by the fight, by the need to be loud and strong and scary to survive. The idea of help, of contact, of not being alone, was almost too big to understand. A ride home would be good, Chul said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. It will be our honor," Commander Kyle said. Within an hour, a new Concorde shuttle, much larger than the first, landed smoothly near their broken ship. It was quiet and clean. The door opened and a ramp extended. There were no weapons pointed at them. Instead, Ranil himself was standing there, a clean uniform now, a look of profound gratitude on his face. "Welcome," he said. The flight back to Sanctuary was short and smooth. The humans looked out the window at their world from a new perspective. They saw the jungle, the rivers, the mountains. It was still a dangerous place, but it no longer felt like a prison. As they flew over the valley, the people of Sanctuary came out of their buildings. They looked up at the strange, silent ship. They were afraid. They held their weapons ready. The human shuttle landed in the central field. The door opened. Chul, Jin, and Mina walked down the ramp. They were safe. They were home. The people of Sanctuary rushed towards them, full of questions and relief. Then, the Concorde shuttle landed right behind them. The people stopped, fear returning to their faces. They saw the sleek, alien ship. They saw Commander Kyle and Ranil and Elia walk down the ramp. The aliens looked very different. They were tall and thin and strange. The little girl, Hannah, hid behind her mother's legs, peeking out at the newcomers. Commander Kyle stopped a respectful distance away. He looked at the faces of the humans. He saw the dirt, the scars, the tough clothes. He saw the fences built for defense, the greenhouses built for life. He saw children hiding behind adults. He saw community. He then did something his people almost never did in a first contact situation. He bowed. It was a deep, formal bow of great respect. The people of Sanctuary were silent. They watched the alien commander bow to them. Chul looked at his people. He saw their confusion and their fear. He stepped forward. "Everyone," he said, his voice loud and clear. "This is Commander Kale. He and his people are our guests." He turned to Kale. "Commander, welcome to Sanctuary." It was not a roar. It was an invitation. And for the first time in a very long time, the humans did not need to be beasts. They could just be people. The days that followed were strange and new for the people of Sanctuary. The giant alien ship, the Starlight Weaver, did not leave. It stayed in orbit, a silent promise in the sky. On the ground, the Concorde crew worked. They did not take over. They asked permission. Commander Kale walked with Chul through the settlement. He saw the patches on the roofs, He saw the fences made from the bones of their old ship. He saw how everything was built for strength, not for beauty. "Your survival is beyond remarkable," Kyle said. His translated voice was full of genuine respect. "It was that, or die," Chul replied simply. He showed Kale the water purifier, a complex machine made from old engine parts and filters woven from local plants. "We used what we had." In another part of the village, Jin and Mina showed Ranil and a few Concord engineers their armory. The aliens looked at the human weapons with a kind of fearful wonder. They were simple, brutal tools. There were no glowing energy cells or quiet hums. There was just metal and wood and the promise of a very loud, very physical impact. "Your projectile weapons are so direct," Ranil said, carefully holding a rifle. "They work," Mina said with a small shrug. "The big animals don't like the noise, and the bullets stop them when the noise isn't enough." The Concord engineers offered to help. They used their advanced tools to fix the broken water pump in minutes. They set up a small, powerful generator that provided clean, silent energy for the entire settlement. They scanned the children and gave them medicine for illnesses the humans had just learned to live with. At first, the people of Sanctuary were wary. They were used to earning everything through struggle. This help felt too easy. But as they saw, their children sleep without coughing, and as they saw lights come on without the constant fear of the generator failing, their fear began to turn into gratitude. One evening there was a meeting. The whole community and the main Concord crew were there. They sat together in the main hall. The aliens drank water. The humans drank a sharp tea made from local leaves. Commander Kale stood up. "We have been analyzing the audio data from our time in orbit," he told the crowd. "We have been recataloging everything. We would like to share this with you." He nodded to Elia. She tapped a device, and a list appeared on a small screen. It was a list of sounds. Sound. Deep, percussive roar. Old classification, territorial roar of alpha predator. New classification, human 40mm grenade launcher, used for nest clearance and rock breaking. A few of the humans chuckled. Sound. Rhythmic, heavy stomping. Old classification, giant herbivore mating display. New classification, human sonic thumper. Used for agricultural perimeter defense. Now people were smiling. Sound, high-frequency shriek. Old classification, prey death cry. New classification, ricochet of human projectile. Sound, rapid, concussive booms. Old classification, pack hunters coordinating attack. New classification, human semi-automatic rifle fire. The list went on. Every terrifying sound the galaxy had feared was given a new, simple human explanation. A tool, a weapon, a machine, a part of their daily life. Jin leaned over to Mina. "So we're not the most terrifying predators in the sector. We're just really, really loud farmers." Mina smiled. "I can live with that." When the list was done, Commander Kale spoke again. "The Galactic Concord believed this world was a lost cause, a place of only death. You have shown us that it is a place of life. A difficult life, but a strong one. We were wrong because we did not understand the most important sound." He paused. "We did not understand the sound of your language underneath the roars. We did not understand the sound of your community, the sound of your courage." He looked at Chol, then at Jin and Mina, and then at all the faces in the room. "The galaxy will hear a new story about this world. They will hear about Sanctuary." A week later, a new ship arrived. It was a Concord supply ship. It brought seeds that could grow in the local soil. It brought strong, light materials for building new homes. It brought books and information about Earth. It brought news. But it also brought a request. Commander Kale found Chul, Jin, and Mina near the watchtower. "The Concord has a proposition for you," he said. "This sector of space is still wild. There are many worlds we have marked as death worlds because of dangerous animal life." He brought up a star chart. Several planets were marked with a red skull just as XT-77 had been. We were going to avoid them. Leave them behind. But now we know, some of those roars might not be roars at all. He looked at them. "We would like you to come with us, as advisors, as guides, to help us listen, To help us find others who might be fighting the same fight you were. The three humans were silent. They looked out at their valley. It was still their home. But the fence no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a border. The galaxy was suddenly much bigger. We would not be colonists, Jin said slowly. We would be, what, scouts? You would be the experts, Kyle said. The experts on survival. The experts on understanding the difference between a beast's roar and a human's reload. Chul looked at his friends. He saw the same thought in their eyes. They had spent their whole lives defending this one valley. Now they had a chance to defend other valleys, to use their hard-learned lessons for something bigger. We will need to talk to everyone, Chul said. This is a decision for the whole community. That night, the community talked long into the night. They talked about the danger. They talked about leaving their home. They talked about the children growing up on a ship instead of in their valley, but they also talked about the chance to help. They talked about the pride of showing the galaxy what humans could do. They talked about not being the lost children of the Odyssey anymore, but being guides and pioneers. In the end, the vote was yes. The following month was a time of great change. The people of Sanctuary packed their most important things. They took their tools, their weapons, and their stories. The Concord helped them build a special part of the Starlight Weaver that was just for them. It had rooms that looked like their houses.
It had a garden area.
It would be their new home for a while. On the day they left, the whole community stood on the landing field. The new, larger shuttle waited for them. The Starlight Weaver hung in the sky above. Jin stood with Mina looking back at the forest. It's strange to leave, he said. We're not leaving it behind, Mina replied, taking his hand. We're taking it with us. Chul gave the final order to board. The people walked up the ramp into the shuttle. The last to board was the little girl Hana. She was not hiding anymore. She held her grass doll in one hand and waved goodbye to the valley with the other. The shuttle rose smoothly, quietly, into the sky. On the bridge of the Starlight Weaver, Commander Kale watched the planet shrink below. It was no longer a world of terrifying roars. It was a world of memory, a world of a lesson learned. He opened a new log. His voice was clear and strong. Captain's log, supplemental. We are departing the XT-77 system. Our mission has changed. We are no longer just explorers. We are listeners. We have learned that the universe is not divided into the civilized and the wild. It is divided into the understood and the misunderstood, and sometimes the most terrifying roar is just a cry for help, or a warning, or the simple practical sound of a reload. We travel now with new friends, and we will listen more carefully.